You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
I'm Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There are these things that makes official. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you, but doesn't judge you as harshly as the other people in your life, because we know you're trying to improve yourself. We know you're listening to the show to make your life better. For 16 years and 24 episodes, we've been bringing you just the most amazing stories of uplifting journeys that people have been on, the stories they share that can make your life better, but share the wealth, if you will. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTok, and all those crazy places they know. Today we have an amazing story of a young man. Andrew Kirkland joins us on the show. He's the author of his book that came out May 10th, 2025, From Kingpin to Kingdom. We're going to get into his story, what happened to him, his journey, and how he found redemption and is making the world a better place now. Andrew Kirkland is a former drug kingpin, radically transformed by the grace of God. Once driven by power, pride, and the illusion of control, he now serves as a speaker, author, and prison ministry leader. His debut book tells the raw and redemptive story of how God rewrote his life. Today, he disciples men and boys walking out of addiction and identity crises and shares a message of hope for those who feel far too gone. He is the founder of Redemption Road Press and regularly teaches in jails and recovery programs across Tennessee. He volunteers with Men of Valor, a nonprofit that equips inmates to connect with God, study scripture, and walk in full recovery through an aftercare program boasting a recidivization rate of under 10%. That's pretty amazing when you know recidivism rates for prison. One of the best in the nation. Through his book and mission, he aims to take his testimony across the country and bring real hope to the helpless. Welcome to the show, Andrew. How are you?
I'm doing great. Best day yet, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming. I love your attitude. Best day yet. I should say that every morning, huh?
Exactly. There's only one day that you got. You don't have yesterday.
There you go.
You don't have tomorrow. You only got today.
That's true. The present is the only time you can really control right now. You can't fix the past. Whatever's in the past is the past. And the only way to adjust the trajectory of the future is this moment right now, what you do now. So give us any .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs?
I have my own website. It's the same title as the book, From Kingpin to Kingdom.com. I offer services on there and a link to my book.
There you go. So give us a detailed 30,000 overview. What's inside your new book?
Well, it's my debut book, and it's my story, a conglomeration, I'd say anthologies, not an autobiography from start to finish, but it's stories, crazy stories, how I became a drug dealer, the different methods that I used. Hopefully it's not a blueprint or a template for people. Also crazier stories that go back about sex addiction, pornography, materialism, the disillusionment of it all, and psychology about what makes a person a criminal.
There you go. That's just Fridays around here. I'm just doing jokes. So, but yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've had quite the journey through life, and now you're helping others by sharing it, talking about it, et cetera, et cetera. So, tell us about this journey, about how did you end up being a drug kingpin? What was it that shaped your life, maybe from youth, maybe had an influence on you that kind of led you down some of these dark pathways?
That's a great question. Well, it started with just wanting to fit in and be accepted and approved by people. I had a big gap with my father being mostly out of my life. And that basically led me into marijuana, and that became an addiction. That addiction led into, feeding that desire to want to be approved by people and being in drug circles. And, you can fast forward that with the business degree. I became basically the Walmart of marijuana in the Nashville area.
The Walmart of marijuana. There you go. And so
yeah, always.
It's not, did you have an addictive personality? There are people that have an addictive personality and they get addicted to everything and anything. Is that kind of something you had growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. Both my mother and my father had alcoholism, and I believe that is genetic. And I've been an addict of everything.
Wow.
Thankfully, I'm hypoglycemic, so even being a veteran of the Navy, I can't drink very much at all. It's just like NyQuil to me. If it weren't for that, I'd have been an alcoholic on top of a drug addict.
Wow. Yeah, I was lucky enough that I have a very high tolerance for everything. I don't know why, except for penicillin. Like I can be dead and you can give me one pill of penicillin and I'm alive again. But everything else, like you got to drink a lot, which means during alcohol, I drank a lot, but at night. But yeah, any of the drugs, it kept me out of any of the drugs because they just weren't interesting at all because they just wouldn't work. So
really,
that was kind of helpful. Yeah. Cocaine. I tried it once. It was like it made me feel like I was sick with the post-nasal drip and gave me about the same rush you get from coffee. Like it just like I haven't tried a lot, but a lot of stuff that I've tried, it's just like even aspirin. I have to take like 3 or 4 Tylenols just to get it to work. So that kind of helped keep me out of some trouble. I feel you on that. But it sounds like you still found trouble and got into it. So was your dad in your life or not in your life? Did you have a contentious relationship with him or just a non-existent one?
Well, my parents were married till I was 13. My father was 40. And I was his third marriage and his fourth child. So, my father lived a life of adultery, and he was a womanizer, and that became the prime source of his acceptance and approval. It was his relationships. And so even though my mom and dad were married, he wasn't there when I was born. He was with other women the entire time. Wow. He would spend a week at home, a month with a woman. So that made the dynamic at home very confusing. And I got to spend very little time with my dad.
Wow. And a young man needs his father in his life, that's for sure. It's men need men to raise men. So in essence, how do you become how do you get involved in drugs and dealing drugs and building this kingpin kingdom?
Well, you have to start off small, and you have to find sources that you can rely upon to get drugs from. Marijuana has always been very, very prevalent, and almost every drug user uses that. So that's a good baseline and a good business model if you're trying to make money. So I first started with 1 ounce at a time, and it was basically to fuel my own addiction. If you buy an ounce of marijuana and break it into 4 pieces, you can sell 3 of them at street value and have yours for free. So that was my primary motivation in the beginning, because as a marijuana addict, you can spend $400 a month in personal use, which can pay a car note. And I got tired of that. That was my initial start of wanting to do that. Now, getting the funds to get more and more and more as I was using it, that's when I found a good source that had I basically found the guy who was dealing and the guy above him, and I made contacts with that guy.
Well,
so it was all on credit. It was basically all on credit.
Wow. And so were you some people will get into drug dealing to fund their own habit. I've had friends that did that in their youth. Was that your case, or were you just trying to make money and maybe prove yourself to your father? Was maybe some of that in there, or make something of yourself? You had a mission maybe to say, "Hey, I'm going to prove myself that I can be somebody," and maybe get recognition from my father, or maybe just get recognition for myself.
Well, I always wanted my father to be proud of me. But the reason why I got into it to begin with was to fund my own addiction. But once I started to feel the nurturing of being approved of by my peers, that's what fueled what was missing from my childhood. I was able to feed into that acceptance of other people wanting attention from me. And that's what I nurtured the most through the drug dealing, was being the man that everybody wanted to talk to.
There you go. Being the guy gives you lots of attention, gives you validation, makes, you gives you self-worth. People need you, et cetera, et cetera. And so you go through that. How many years did it take to get set up, or did it take a lot of time? Or tell us about what that journey was like, and then how did you maintain it? I mean, sometimes there's violence and other things that are maintained in keeping a territory on this sort of thing.
Oh, well, I operated in the shadows mostly. And I basically started off with small time deals with just peers. And that led me into my first network of growing marijuana in the Nashville area. The one gentleman, he had some rental properties, and it was a double wide trailer. Me and these other two gentlemen, we started to grow marijuana for several crops. I was the chief laborer because I didn't have much money. And when that kind of piddled out, we ended up, one of the guys got busted, and I ended up having to burn everything that was in the house. It didn't burn the house down, but I took everything outside, burned it all, then formulated a new plan with the other partner. We cut the other guy out that got busted. And then we just started growing from that point on. Growing, I mean the business. Colorado and California were both legalized. So that's when we started doing some transportation between those states. I took on the customers of the one partner, and that's when my business started to just explode.
Wow. There you go. There you go. And so you how many years did that go? And then what happened? What changed your life? What gave you that moment, that cathartic moment that made you go, I don't know about all this, and maybe I should go someplace else?
Yeah, from being a average smoker to running 50 pounds a week, that was about a 4 or 5 year span. I mean, I smoked so much marijuana that time. It's a surprise I remember anything. About, I would say 4 or 5 years from making nothing to 60,000 a month.
Wow.
It was having everything that made me want to stop.
Yeah. Now, when you say having everything, because you had everything, or you were addicted to all this stuff and things are going on? Just want to clarify that.
Oh, and it wasn't about the addiction. I mean, I was maintaining just a heavy marijuana addiction, but it was what I call the disillusionment of having everything.
Okay.
When you make 60,000 a month for years and years, you have the keys to the city. You can go anywhere and do anything. And every celebrity, every millionaire, if you look at their bios, they all say the same thing. It's when you reach the top of the ladder, you realize that the ladder is leaning on the wrong wall. And it's not what the world says, that if you make all the money in the world that you're going to be happy. Well, I wasn't happy once I got that point. It takes about 3 years. I give you about 3 years. If you won the lottery, Chris, if you won $100 million, 3 years, you'd say, I've had enough Mai Tais, time on the beach. I've had enough vacations. There's nothing new under the sun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's some people they bask in the glory of it all, and then you kind of start maybe to feel like you're living in a golden cage where you're living in this place, and you I mean can you kind of have this great life, but you also you're run to the threat of prosecution if you run up against the law and different things like
Oh yeah.
that. So those are all issues um, that can take and happen. So, I mean, some definite downsides there. So, was there any crazy real life moment that made you walk away? Was there a cathartic event, or did you just wake up one day and go, "I don't really want to do this anymore"?
Well, all right. It's kind of a long story, but it's
No,
it's
please tell.
three-pronged. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So the first prong was I would regularly do deals at Panera Bread. I would use it as a cover. So I'd have people just go into the back of my car and get a pound or 5 pounds of marijuana at a time. There's a gentleman that sits out selling those newspapers. You see homeless people doing that. And he's got cerebral palsy really bad. He was in the Panera Bread one day, and I walked over to him boldly, like I always speak to people. And I said, "What are you doing selling papers? You need to be collecting disability." And what he told me was the first thing that shook me. He said, "God gave me this body, and I'm going to glorify him with it." And in that moment, it was like I knew what I was doing wrong. The psychopathy going inside my brain, I had a breakthrough, and it just made me feel like, even I'm making all this money, it doesn't mean anything. I'm not giving anything back. All I'm doing is taking. Second prong was the materialism. I had everything that I wanted. And one time I was taking my son, who was in my custody, I was taking him to one of the largest malls in the Nashville area. We had a handful of bags, and we were going to take them back to the car and unload them and go back inside and shop. And usually for people, that's a fun moment. You get to think about what you're going to do when you get home with the stuff, unboxing the shoes, how you're going to wear the shirt, blah, blah, blah. For me, it felt like I could have just thrown it in a dumpster and it wouldn't have mattered at all. I just became blank to that feeling of materialism. And the third one was I met a beautiful woman, and it was the first woman that I had dated throughout this process who, while we were dating, I found she didn't want any material possession. She didn't anything about money. It didn't impress her. It didn't impress her the power that I had. And finally, somebody wanted to be with me for who I was.
Oh, wow.
And that was it took three major things for me to wake up and say, I need a change.
Yeah. Well, what were those three things?
Well, it was the man with cerebral palsy. It was the materialism, and it was a beautiful woman who's now my wife.
There you go. Well, definitely lead us. Did she know about some of the other things you were up to and your extracurricular activities there, sort of thing?
Yeah. She didn't know when I asked for her number, but when I picked her up for my first date, and this is a story in the book, turns out my finance guy, one of my partners, he came in from Colorado out of town as I was going to pick her up on our first date. My son called me and said, "Hey, so-and-so's here, and he's here to collect money." Which was a regular occurrence, but it was unscheduled. So in this business, you can't just say, we needed to schedule a meeting. I'm sorry, this isn't good for me. It doesn't work like that. So I picked her up and I said, "Hey, we're gonna have to go back to my house. I have to take care of some business." She said, "Okay." And we got there. She met my son, who was 15 for the first time. And she met this scallywag guy, my partner, who looked kind of like a mental patient who had been released. And I said, "We just need to count some money really quick, and then we'll be on our date." And I came out with a stack about that high, and her eyes, she's like, And I said, we're just going to count them out in stacks of 1,000. Make sure you count them correctly. And as soon as we're done, we'll leave. Now, I thought that would be our last date, but we're married.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you bring stacks like that of money to a date, you got a good chance. It's kind of the way it works nowadays. So you have this experience. You decide, you find a woman, you want to change your life, and did you ever think of just kind of maintaining the lifestyle instead of fully giving it up, or maybe hide it or keep it on the side, maybe do it a little bit? Because I mean, at this point, you're making most of your money doing drugs. I mean, if at this point is your intent to go legit, as they would say in Godfather 2?
Well, now if the laws were different in Tennessee, that may have been one of the things I was being interested in. I was planning on buying a machine that would have taken raw material and turned it into the high concentrates, the things that people are using today in pens and things of that nature. But I'm removed from that lifestyle for 11 years, so. The legal changes, the states that have legalized it weren't like that then. So it was black or white for me. It was walk away or continue. And it just wasn't worth it anymore. I had come to what they call the end of myself, where I realized that this lifestyle, I didn't want to live it anymore.
It wasn't going to work out. At this point, you've got to go find a job or a career or some sort of income replacement, correct?
Yeah. When I quit the business, I had $30,000, and I buried that in my mom's yard for a little while. Yeah, I was
mob style.
Yeah, I did. But because how it ended. And I can tell you, if you're interested in how it ended, I thought that the feds were going to come and arrest me. So I needed that for bail money. But yeah, I didn't have another job lined up. And basically, me and that girlfriend, we decided to take that money and turn it into furniture. We started painting old, ugly furniture and selling it at the flea market. So I went from making $60,000 a month to about $4,000 a month. Did that for an entire summer, and then I got a retail job, making $14 an hour. It was a humbling experience, I'll tell you.
I'll bet it was. I mean, it's hard for anyone to go to work for someone else after you've been an entrepreneur, legitimate, or doing some other things, and it can be challenging because you've got to. Like you say, you go from 60,000 a month, you said, to 14 an hour. That's a bit of a shock kick coming in there, and rebuilding your life. Now, how do you go from that to high-level street life to volunteering in a jail ministry?
Well, so I grew up as a Christian, I even went to Christian school from K to 5th grade. So I had a foundation and a knowledge of God through Jesus Christ. When my parents divorced, I basically divorced God at the same time. As a lot of kids do, the foundation of their home has a lot to do with their foundation with God. And so when that crumbled, I walked away from that relationship. And I knew through all these disillusionments, like I was telling you, with materialism and pleasure and all that just escaping me, I knew that there was something more to life. I knew that because if life is all about what you can get, then I should have been completely happy. But I found myself completely empty. So I basically, on one of those roadside events, I pulled over on the side of the road. And I just cried out to God. I said a prayer like, God, it's been a very long time since we talked, and I'm an evil guy. I think nothing about just myself. And I kind of made a plea deal with God. I said, if you can get me out of this lifestyle, then I will give you the rest of my life. And 2 weeks later, through an event of my driver getting busted in Nebraska, with
Wow.
$115,000 of my money.
Mhm.
It was the pin that let the trailer go from the truck. It was
Okay.
the end of the business, as you could
Mhm.
say it.
Yeah, because you're starting to see that it's just a matter of time, right? It's odds. I mean, I remember what's the famous line from Heat? You know, there's only so many times, you know, the police are always on. I can't remember the line from the movie Heat, but you know, the police are always on call 24/7 monitoring you. All they do is have to catch you. You only have to fuck up once,
Yeah,
right?
you can only
They
slip
can,
up one time, man. One
yeah,
time is all it takes.
all it takes is one time. The cops can fuck up all the times they want, but all it takes is one time for a criminal to fuck up, and you're caught. And
Bro, I
you know,
had cops sitting outside my house on
really,
shifts. Yeah, and
wow.
I had to move everything, reverse a little bit. I had to move everything to a stash house
Hmm.
across the city because
Hmm.
the cops were so hot. They were making an indictment case against me.
Oh wow.
And I had a lawyer. I had my own Sal. You ever watch Breaking Bad?
Yes.
Yeah, I learned a lot of tips from that show, and I got my own Sal, a top attorney downtown, and he said,
Uh-huh.
I advise you that you should stop doing this. I said, bro, I'm not here to talk about that. I said, help me, give me some pro tips to keep me from getting busted. And I found out, he's like, I told him all the crimes I was doing, and multi-state trafficking, child endangerment, prostitution, tax evasion, all that. He said, you're looking at 25 to life federal prison.
Wow. Yeah.
And it felt like I had one of those dentist lead vests on me, just
Mhm.
like it was a lot of pressure I was under. I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that is. I mean, you've got the Johnny Law sitting out front and all that good stuff, and
Yeah.
all you go. So, um, so how do you get involved with the jail ministry? How do you get to where? Well, we talked a little bit about you did that. So, what did you start doing from there after you kind of reached that point of no return, or it looks like the walls are closing in. It's time to change my life.
Yeah.
Um, how do you build what you have going on now? You've got the Redemption Press. You've written your book. You've been, I believe, visiting people in jail and running a ministry. Tell us how you developed all that.
That's a great question. So after my driver was busted,
Mhm.
I called all the clients. I told them that the business was over. I'm shutting down.
Wow.
My main customer, who was buying roughly half of my inventory on a weekly basis, I called him personally, told him what was going on. And I called my finance guy in Colorado, told
Mhm.
him what was going on. Now, I still owed him money.
Wow.
2 days later, and this is the point where this is the foundation of why I do what I do. A couple days later, the guy from Colorado and my main customer, they both come to my house in the middle of the day. And I was the boss. They knocked on my
Mhm.
door and walked in, sat down in my living room, told me to sit down. And they looked me dead in the eye and they said, you're going to continue to do this. You're the only way we can continue to do this. And you've made sure that we don't have any of your contacts. So the finance guy, he said, I've got another $100,000 loan I'll give you. Just get the driver, just get another load, and let's keep this going. Right.
Uh-huh.
So I had a moment where I thought about it and time just stopped. And I remembered that roadside prayer that I had.
Mhm.
And God spoke to me in this very audible way. And he said to me, what are you going to do? Are you going to serve man or are you going to serve me?
Mm.
I didn't know what to do to get those men out of my living room to convince
Mhm.
them. They're atheists. And I
Mhm.
don't, I dropped to my knees, Chris. I closed my eyes. I threw my arms in the air and I cried out to God. I just kept
Mhm.
saying, God help me, God help me, God help me.
Mhm.
They got up, man. They dropped some F-bombs on me. They put their finger in my face and they walked out of my house. I've
Wow.
never seen from them again.
Wow. That's
So
powerful, my friend.
that's the foundation where I
Holy
lay
moly.
my faith on. He
Mhm.
saved me that day. I left myself completely open to that. And it's like, they say God is real, but he's been real for me. And so that's the foundation. And I take that faith and I bring it to the people in jails, and I bring it to young men, as he's as real to me as you are, as you and I are right now.
There you go. So how many years have you been doing this now, where you've been running the whole thing and the operation and everything you've been doing?
Oh, so I've been doing the jails ministry for the last 18 months. And I tried to start off in prisons, but it's pretty hard to get in there into prisons, getting background checks and so on and so forth. But I got in with a ministry called Men of Valor, and they do the prison reform program. So before I did the prison stuff, I started working with young adults, young boys, teenagers in high school, and some kids that get out of high school, leading them away from the direction that I took.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
So all in all, I've been working in ministry for about 8 years now.
Nice. Well, congratulations, man. You're changing not only your own life and ensuring you're going forward with something that isn't going to put you in prison for 1,000,000 years, and you're helping now, and on top of that, you're helping other people. Now, I'm looking at the website. I'm seeing that you have several offerings there: speaking requests, discipleship inquiry, prison visit form, group teaching, and prayer requests. Tell us about some of the offerings you have there, and maybe how some people can utilize them, or maybe if they know someone, they can hand that off to that needs that help.
Oftentimes, churches have programs like Celebrate Recovery for people with addictions, people with problems with pornography, people with drug addictions. And I like to go in and speak to those groups. So churches can go on the website and look up the form, and it goes directly to an email to me. And I also want to go into more and more prisons, as that's the most enjoyable time I have. When I go to the prisons, that's it's like my birthday when I go there. It's for them, but I get so much joy out of it. And I also offer one-on-ones with video teleconferencing. And so if anybody needs some discipleship or to basically, I want to be a yield sign to help people. I want to use my life to show people that the fast life is not going to make them happy, and use my life as an example of that. Anytime I can have a speaking engagement, because I've lived 3 or 4 lives in my 45 years. And through that time, I've got a lot of action steps that I can help people take to avoid those pitfalls.
Yeah, most definitely. So if someone's out there listening, you've got several ways that they can reach out to you on the website. I was thinking of, other audience members. Maybe they have a family member or someone they love in jail. They can take, and with the prison visit form, that's maybe where you can request to have you come by and help whoever needs help there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So if you're a prison chaplain or you're a captain at a prison and you'd like me to come speak at your prison, especially if it's regional to the Southeast, is where I live in Tennessee, I'd be glad to make the drive. You can go on the website and click on that. I'm never too busy to get right back to you.
There you go. Now you have a discipleship request. So, and that's where do you only work with men? Because I notice it says here for men seeking direction, healing, and a deeper intimacy with Christ. Is it only for men, or is it available for women too?
Well, women can certainly get a hold of me. Yeah, that'd be just fine. I mean, everybody has addictions, and everybody has hangups and hurts. And I've certainly have talked and discipled women in one-on-one, in person. I don't really encourage that. I'm not a certified counselor, so specializing in men and young men, that's my specialty. But it's not off limits. So, ladies, if you'd like to reach out to me, I'd be glad to talk to you. If it's about a young man that you have, a lot of mothers reach out to me about their young boys, and I've counseled countless number of troubled teens, and I love it because at the age 13, that's when they just stop listening to their parents. It's just built into them. So you get me, the cool uncle, and I'll tell them all about how to be a man.
The cool uncle. Yeah.
Yeah. I call myself Uncle Drew.
There you go. I'm the cool uncle, but I teach them how to go to Spear and Rhino. I'm not sure what that is, but don't go there, folks. I'm bad.
I know what that is.
Spear and Rhino jokes always pay off to those who know. So people can reach out to you. They can do like a web call, get inspiration, help them get connected with God. Why do you feel it's important for people to connect with God? I mean, there's lots of talk with, in AAA or not AAA and in AA services, AAA services. Yeah, if you need
roadside assistance, call.
Roadside assistance. But I mean, technically, I guess it could be a metaphor. You need some roadside assistance in your life. Find God. What is it about finding God that makes it so important? You hear like in AA, that it's that first step that you've got to do is realize, that there's something bigger yourself you need to take care of or believe in, because you're having trouble with your, doing your life personally.
Yeah, a simple answer is we were created by God for God. There is no other purpose in life except for to grow in character, to become like him. If you really want the peace and contentment that you were meant for, there's really no other way than through God. And by God, I mean through Jesus, because he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. So I have found no other contentment other than through God. And that's why I know that I was created for him.
There you go. So as we go out, give people your final pitch out to reach out to you, get to know you, order up your book and all that good stuff at 80.coms.
Yeah, please go to my website, fromkingpintokingdom.com. I have my social media links there. I've got my email address there, all my services, from the personal one-on-one discipleship to speaking engagements, prison form engagements, and group settings. I offer group teaching settings, and also have a link to my new debut book, From Kingpin to Kingdom. You can get it on Amazon. And I am currently working on getting it in all the bookstores like Target, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart. If you go on to Amazon, please leave me a review. That helps the sales. Promotions are difficult. As you both know, it's you have to dump a lot of money into promotions. So getting this off the ground is the toughest part. Writing the book, that was one thing, but being on the business side, it's a whole different other. So please go to my website. Let's connect. I'd love to help you personally.
There you go. Well, great job there. And it's glad that you've changed your life, but you've also changed others and shown what a wonderful impact that can have, and an example of redemption, as it were. Thank you very much for coming to the show. We really appreciate it, man. Thanks for sharing your journey, Andrew.
It was my pleasure, Chris. And thank you for your great questions. Thank you for the time you've given me. Thank you for this platform. It's a pleasure.
And thank you. It's hard to tell stories, and there's bravery to it. It's hard to write books and put this down to paper, but serving other people and helping other people and lifting the world to be a better place, can make all the difference in the world. I think when we're kind of young, we kind of take this world for granted, and we run around and do some funky things, but we find redemption or find a way to be better, and then we help the world be better. So I'm very thankful for what you're doing and sharing. Folks, order up the book wherever fine books are sold, out May 10th, 2025. It's called From Kingpin to Kingdom by Andrew Kirkland. Check out his website. If you know somebody who's struggling or having issues, or, maybe a loved one or a friend, or maybe you're in that position, he's definitely got some interesting offerings on his website so that you can get help there. And, people need to find help where they can. And sometimes you need to find that right voice that attunes with you. I know a lot of people, there's just sometimes that moment that comes to them. So anyway, check that out as well. As always, we appreciate our audience. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss. Chris Voss, one, the TikTok, and all this crazy place, the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time. And that's